Our quote for this week is Ludwig von Mises. All rational action is in the first place individual action. Only the individual thinks, only the individual reasons, only the individual acts. Welcome to Aquarian Anarchy. This is Marcus Pulis, and you will notice that we are a little different tonight. Chad is, if he makes it, he will only be here briefly. Nico is running late, and we've asked our buddy Hotep Daryl to join us. As you will see, you see Julian beneath us, and we'll give him an introduction here in a moment. And as you can see, he's also running for Congress, which is a wonderful thing to have him on the show. Julian, I want to welcome you, but I'll get to your introduction in a moment. First of all, I want people to like, share, and hit that bell icon. Go to the store, get yourself a Ogre Shit t-shirt, and go to and also go to our Patreon and do that. Before we get a whole lot farther, there is a couple things in the news that I would like to cover, particularly one specific thing. I'm going to go ahead and bring this up to the forefront so y'all can see. This happened today, and I think that it is an interesting development in the cause of not only peace and freedom, but also the contents of hell. So today, one of the biggest shitbags in history, Donald Rumsfeld, joined his master in hell. And I cannot be happier that he is gone. I feel for his family, but I felt for his family the moment that they became his family, because he is a murderous bastard and the world is better off with him gone. So, as you can see, I have an opinion about that. But it has been an interesting week, and this week we have a good friend of what has become a friend of mine, Julian Acciard, and he is running for Congress in the North, or in New Hampshire for the 1st district, and he's running as a Republican, and I'm sure we'll get into that. And he and I first met through Hotep circles. He's a solutionary, and I have learned that he is certainly an ally. He may not be exactly an anarch, and he may be a little bit different than some of us, but he is an ally, and he is definitely, I look forward to hopefully him getting put into Congress. That would be amazing, because that would mean somebody that listens to my ass might actually be in Congress. And I do also want to introduce everyone to Hotep Daryl. We've mentioned Daryl like a million times, because he is one of our #1 anarchs in our anarch chat. And he has definitely added a bunch of content to that site. And particularly when it involves firearms. Great guy, and I'm glad to introduce him to our audience as well. And if you want a piece of his fucking information, I'm telling you what, go to our Patreon. At the $5 level, you get put into the Anarch chat. It is worth the $5, because the deals that we have seen, particularly from Daryl on firearms, is worth it all by itself. So anyway, without further ado, I want to. You're welcome. Welcome to the show, Hotep Daryl. And so, Julian, I want to dive in. Tell us about yourself beyond the political bullshit that we like to talk about. Tell us about who you are.
All right. So I was born in RAF Upper Hayford in England, and then my parents were active duty at the time. And then we moved back stateside when I was about 3 years old. And my mom was stationed at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. After she retired, we lived in Wright-Patterson in Dayton, Ohio for a little bit. So Dayton, Ohio, for anyone who's ever been to Ohio, Dayton, Ohio is kind of like a miniature Detroit. Just as much crime, just as much drugs and everything else, except it's right on the Mason-Dixon line. And we have people who are still angry about the outcome of the Civil War. We, growing up, we had an active Black Panthers and active KKK chapter in that city. So just a little reference with all the racialization of everything in America right now, where apparently math, science, and anything at all happens to be racist. You all suck because you're all a bunch of liars. Now, on to me moving up to New Hampshire. When my grandmother passed, my dad, who is from up here, we came up and we took over the family house that my grandfather and my grandmother built in Atkinson, New Hampshire. And I graduated from up here. Then I went active duty in the Marine Corps because I had this weird idea thinking that if I served, I might be able to prevent the next war and my future children from having to serve, and my brothers and sisters from having to serve. And that was not the case. I still love the Marine Corps. I wanted to spend 36 years. I wanted to be in the Marine Corps so damn long they took an act of Congress to kick me out. And I wanted to deploy every year because I'm a belligerent bastard, and that's where belligerent bastards in the military belong, is on a battlefield kicking ass. Now, that didn't work out. I was medically retired in 2011. And in 2016, after trying to live in the communist state of California, for as long as I physically could and enjoy the nice weather, I moved back home to New Hampshire to find out that my live free or die state, the closest it will ever get to being a libertarian state, is not so live free or die. And that a lot of the issues that I found out in California were already here waiting for me when I got back. And after basically from 2000 until present day, I've watched the conversation in this country degrade to a point where we're all talking past each other. We don't even use the same language anymore. And well, frankly, like I said, like you said previously, I'm running as a Republican. But the best way to describe my policy is nationalist on foreign policy and libertarian on domestic policy, because I think that's probably about as good as we're going to get, because I'm not so intellectually, I don't do intellectual purity tests. Mm-hmm. I understand that the world is not perfect. I understand that we'll never get an entire country of libertarians. And I understand that it is equally as foolish as the whole Marxist utopia to think that we'll ever get a libertarian utopia. I think about as far as that'll last is about maybe 5 minutes before somebody tries to take control over something.
Sure.
And we end up restarting the cycle all over again. But so
I want to dive in real quick, Julian, with the idea. I'd like you to define what you mean by nationalist for our audience.
So when I say nationalist, I mean if you're elected to Congress, your job is to serve American citizens, not to serve other countries, not to benefit other nations, not to go to war to fix somebody else's problems, not to give foreign aid and tax American citizens for other people's problems. Your job is not to fix the world's problems. I understand being engaged in the world. I understand backing our allies, because I'm not so ignorant of the world around us that I believe that we can be completely isolationist. The fact is, we've already seen what happens when we start to neglect our allies. A lot of the peace treaties in the world are banked on the idea that literally everyone has our back, or that I should say we have everyone's back. And we've seen what happens when we have politicians get wishy-washy on that. They start to become, engaged in their imperialist inklings, sort of like what China's doing in South China Sea currently to Hong Kong and Taiwan and, pretty much everyone else that they've conquered over the past 5,000 years. And now we're at the point where it's about to happen again. And if you look, I want to end the more imperialist streak that the United States has had over the many years, because I don't believe wars of attrition are a good thing in any right. And I don't believe if we go to war that we should be fighting it for any other reason than to kick ass and win it.
Or for that matter,
if we're going to go to war, we need to be there to win. If I have to fight you, I want to end you, and I want it to be so bluntly obvious how bad it went that everyone else sees it and goes, all right, let's not do this again. That's my take, is avoid war whenever possible, and whenever you can't avoid it, make it so that everyone, it's a cautionary tale for the rest of all time.
Sure. For me, my take on war is murder. It doesn't matter if you're talking about 10 people killing 10 people, one person killing one person, or a million people killing a million people. It doesn't matter. Killing people's wrong, and that's really where it's at. Daryl, do you have any questions for Julian?
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt, but for the people that it might not be clear enough for, Julian, were you saying that basically you don't believe that the best use of taxpayer money would be to send funds to buy ammunition, bombs, and God knows whatever else across seas to, places like possibly Israel or Palestine, where they're blowing each other to hell with our
You
money?
mean where we're literally backing both sides?
Yeah.
I definitely don't believe that the best
sounds
use
evil.
of
I mean,
taxpayer.
we couldn't be quite possibly involved in that.
I don't believe that the best. If you look at the amount of countries we send foreign aid to, whether it be weapons or whether it be just straight money or pallets of cash, as the talking point goes, we're backing both sides of most military conflicts in the country. I don't believe that's the best thing for us to be doing. I understand, like I said, backing our allies. However, there's only one politician who tried to take a different tactic in the Middle East. That was Donald Trump. Where I disagree with the man, I disagree with the man. I don't worship him, but I liked a lot of the stuff that he did because he got closer to the goal than just about anybody else because he's willing to think outside the box. Using the economic power of the United States to trade with all the other countries in the Middle East and leave the bad actors to their own squalor, I think was a good play. I think, hey, maybe we should stop defining our entire Middle East policy on the bad actors and actually focus on the good actors and trading with them. And you know what? After your entire country shuts down because you refuse to actually care about it, eventually you're going to have to start doing things differently. So let's not define the entirety of the Middle East on Pakistan and Iran. Trade with everybody else in the Middle East to the degree that we can. The whole my 80% friend is not my 20% enemy sort of principle, where we deal with each other to the degree that we can, and we part ways where we can. I think that is the best policy, where let's deal with those who are willing to deal with us at that level, and everyone else, well, they can go pound sand.
Sure. And I the thing is, your 80-20 thing is a good representation, because I really think that is largely, frankly, how you and I kind of see each other is, you and I aren't always going to agree on absolutely everything. I'm never going to run for office. And if I do, I'm damn sure not going to get elected. because if I'm running for office, I'm joking and trolling on some motherfuckers. but at the end of the day, when we get to that 80% that you and I agree on, when we're at what I've said multiple times, that I want a free world. I want a world that is absolutely without rulers. That's where I want. But if you can meet me at the Constitution, I can deal with that. I can deal with meeting at the Constitution. Unfortunately, I don't think we're ever going to get there. And
it would take something that is. It would take somebody who literally does not give a damn about re-election.
For sure.
I mean, and you're not likely to find that because honestly, what it takes to get elected is that you lie and you cheat and you steal. And if you don't lie and cheat and steal, honestly, your election is either by overwhelming popular support where people are just like, God, I have to rock with this guy because he's the only guy like me, or it's a fluke. Yeah. And the other guy screwed up tremendously. Normally, it's a combination of the two.
I think you're right. I think you can see that in Ron Paul's service in Congress.
Of Ron Paul.
Yeah.
That's my guy.
Sure. And one of the things that I like about you personally, and Daryl and I were talking about this a little bit before you came on. Oh, and Daryl has dropped out.
Uh-oh.
All right. Hopefully he comes back. And I apologize
Okay.
for the
I'll
technical
post to
difficulties.
Daryl.
Sure. And but he does seem to be dropped out. So anyway, one of the things that he and I were talking about is that I think that you are very much like what I've seen from like Jeff Charles, Jeff on the right, great
Yep.
guy, and you and he, and largely a lot of other hoteps as well, to be frank, but you've said this to me directly, and I think of you often when thinking about these kinds of issues. I think you and I've had a conversation, and you've often said, Marcus, you're right. And then you'll say, okay, something else, and you'll go off on whatever you're going to talk about. And then you'll say, Marcus, you're right. And where I find is that you and Jeff and, Sonny and many of the other people, they're there. You intellectually, you get what freedom means. You understand where people like myself and Chad and Daryl and Nico are coming from. You understand it, and so, but you're not ready to say that publicly. You're not ready for that to be the guiding principle because you're still scared. You're still a little bit worried that what if I'm wrong and without a government, we wind up getting Hitler or we wind up getting Mao or we wind up those kinds of things. And those are legitimate arguments. But I think
I'm not necessarily scared. I'm
I
absolutely sure that's what we're going to get, because every time I've looked at a revolution throughout history, what comes after it is usually not what was intended. It is damn near always followed by, look at the French Revolution. Guillotine for everybody.
Sure.
But also look at massacre.
Right, but also look at all of the sweeping changes, because you're right. The revolution in France failed, but it scared the shit out of every European monarch in the area. Scared the hell out of them, and we would not have a world that largely is controlled by republics or what you might call democracies, if it were not for what happened in France.
That's very true.
So
I'd say it's at least worth the chance.
Sure. And I'm going to go ahead and send, Jonesy wants to come in too. I'm going to go ahead and send him that link if you guys want to chat while I'm doing that.
Brother Jonesy.
Right. And
definitely.
Julian, if you want to, you and Hotep Daryl just talk. And if there's anything, like I said, I'm going to send him that. It'll just take me a moment.
Yeah. So, Julian, where are you running for Congress? What state?
So I'm in New Hampshire, and New Hampshire's 1st district. So I'm in Manchester area, which is our biggest city.
What made you, I guess, think that public office was going to be, where you could be effective?
Basically, I got to the point where I got so sick of what I was seeing, and I wrote strategy, speech analysis, sent it to politicians, met politicians throughout the whole 2020 cycle. And I've done like speech analytics and stuff like that for years. And I realized that apparently I have a rare skill, which is to be able to understand where both sides are coming from and convey the exact same message to both sides in a way that they all understand, where you may not agree with me, but you understand where I'm coming from. And I think that's the best place to start a conversation towards actually focusing on solutions. Because when I look at politics in general, I see us all focused on my team versus your team, political thuggery. Everyone's focused on labels. No one's focused on actually solving the damn problem. And I'm so sick of seeing people go to DC and they basically abdicate their voting responsibility to New York or California, or Texas and Florida. And I think both are wrong. Like, my job is to go and represent New Hampshire. And largely, it's to protect New Hampshire from everything the federal government likes to do.
For sure.
And it's really that simple. Like, it doesn't have to be any harder than that. And I see this title worship where it goes, oh, well, he's a doctor, so we must listen to everything that he says and worship everything he says. I'm like, no, because he's also wrong. He's also wrong. Being a doctor doesn't mean that you're great in this particular area. It means you have a highly focused skill set in a specific area. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you can take a broad view of everything in the world and be able to craft policy in a way that you're not hurting the average everyday guy like myself, because I'm a blue collar guy. So literally everything that DC does hits my kitchen table, and it doesn't hit it in the way of all of our millionaire politicians and people who spend an entire career prepping to go to DC. It hits my house at a very real level. So when you create a monopoly, when the government sponsors a monopoly, because I want to be clear, monopolies don't just spring up out of the ground. They always have government help. Always. You can't point to one that just happened naturally without government help. So when that monopoly screws me and it hits my kitchen table, I take it very, very personally.
Absolutely.
And when I have my elected officials go and they decide to represent somebody else other than the constituents, I take it very, very personally.
Absolutely.
And I don't like it. And I got sick of it. So I decided, you know what? The Republicans in our state house just won in 2020 in sweeping numbers. We have a large Freedom Caucus, or New Hampshire Liberty Alliance, which is basically libertarians running as Republican. And they've crafted some of the biggest legislation that we've had in our state, the most impactful legislation we've had in our state over the session. We just passed one of the most fiscally responsible budgets I think we've ever passed. And it's about as good as it's probably going to get this session. And over time, over the next couple of years, maybe we'll be able to compound on that. But so my duty is, if we are getting good representation at the local level, I want to expand that to the federal level. And my job is to represent New Hampshire first.
Right. And that's the whole idea behind that kind of starts localization. I got to give a shout out to Adam Kokesh, because, 3 years ago, he was talking about localization as his primary focus when it came to his political run for president of the United States. And that idea, sure, there were people that talked about it here and there, but he really brought it to the forefront. And so what he presented to people is what's starting to really take off. I just watched a podcast with Josh Smith with Maj Toure, and Maj was talking about localization and the idea that we the best way for us, no matter what, whether you're talking about direct action or direct challenges to the authority, or you're talking about electoral politics or whatever it is, the best way to really get to some fundamental change is at the local level. Whether you're talking about what Adam was talking about, which is handing power back to the states, dissolving the federal government, and those kinds of things, or you're just talking about, I need to get me elected to my local office and represent my local people. Because Sunny's right when she talks about that. They're definitely taking and when I say they, I'm talking about like the socialists, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, and when their policies come to play, they are bringing those global policies, the globalist ideas, down to your local level. So you damn well better fight back. And what you're talking about is an extension of that. Many people, and I want to take one pause and welcome the Podfather. Welcome, Jonesy. And thank you for joining us.
My dear sweet brother Noomsy. How are we?
We're good. But I want to I want to get back to this point. Lots of people, I've played in the Libertarian Party bullshit before and did it, quite frankly, pretty successfully with Adam. And a lot of people would say, he should run as a libertarian, and I disagree with that completely. You should run as a libertarian if you want to make a point. If you want to say, I am 100% about these principles, and the Libertarian Party platform is amazing, and you absolutely, if you want to do that, and you might want to make a good point about, libertarian ideas, run as a libertarian, make that point. If you actually want to fucking win, run as either a Democrat or a Republican as a libertarian, because they're not going to let the libertarians win. We're talking about people that drone bomb babies. They're not going to give up just because you voted. They don't give a fuck about voting. They are going to maintain their power. And they know that as parties go, the Libertarian Party is the biggest challenge to that. So I actually think you've made the right decision in running as a libertarian-leaning Republican, though I'm a libertarian-leaning anarchist. And I think that will definitely propel you in the future. Before we let Jonesy and Hotep Daryl talk, I do want to talk to one specific issue. What are your challenges? I looked, and it doesn't look like yet anybody's opposing you yet. I think you have a Democratic House member that's serving now, correct?
Yes, I have a Democrat incumbent. And I have, let's see. So the primary race is getting crowded. Everyone is, I guess, testing the waters, which is really nice way of saying, I want to be able to have free reign to go wherever I want and meet with whoever I want, do whatever I want, until I actually file. And that allows people to build a war chest before they've actually filed.
You're correct.
It also allows people to go to places like PAC conferences and meetings and stuff they wouldn't be able to go to otherwise. I came out in January, and I wanted to make it bluntly clear that way before redistricting, likely redistricting probably won't even be done till January of next year. I wanted it to be clear that I'm not choosing my voters, that my principles, my policy, everything stands clear from day one, far before I know who the hell is going to be in my district. And that's where I stand on those issues. So the guy that ran in the 2020 election, Matt Mowers, Caroline Levitt, who's the full disclosure little sister of one of the guys I played football with when I was younger, family friend, great individual. She worked under Kayleigh McEnany in the White House. And there are 6, 7, 8 other people who range from state reps to state senator to random individuals who are, some are opportunistic and some are just hopping in because they think they can make a difference. And honestly, we have the whole spectrum. I've met with most of the primary candidates up here, and I've made it very clear. I'm not going to go negative on anybody because that's just not my jam. That's not what I do. I care about solutions, and I care about having the utmost physical liberty possible on the ticket when we go into the polls in November. And if I see anybody getting wishy, and I'm willing to pull out and take the L and let somebody else with a similar platform win that seat, if it puts liberty on the ticket, and us continuing to primary each other is going to hurt that chance. Now, if I see anybody wishy-washy or wavering on their stances or their ability to put liberty on that ticket, I'm going to go all the way to the end, and I'm going to be a belligerent bastard all the way until the end of the election.
Well, I wanted to say that I want to offer my services if you need anyone to sling mud for you. I'm just letting you know.
Go ahead.
If you need anyone to sling mud, I am available to you. You're my buddy. You're the man. I am very proud of what you're doing. I don't want to cut in, but I haven't had a chance to talk to you since you started declaring that you were going to run for office. I'm so proud of what you're doing. You started podcasting, you getting out there, you were reaching out across the aisle to different people, and you're just the kind of person that we need in local government to move up and actually be somebody that can shift this whole political spectrum. Because the fact that you're willing to reach across the aisle and talk to people that are like-minded but different than you, that's the key to solving it all, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Like, I remember us talking about, you know, us in perfect world, we would have unicorn farts and rainbows, right? You remember we talked about that? But you know what? There are no unicorn farts and there are definitely no rainbows right now. And we need people that are willing to work together, and they're not so aligned with party lines that they don't look at logic. So I'm proud of you, man. I just really had to say that. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut in and derail the interview.
Oh, no.
I'm just super proud of you, man. I really am.
Hey, thank you, brother. It's honestly, this has been a fun ride. I don't sleep. I barely eat. I work on coffee and nicotine right now to stay awake. But
it's so bad.
It is. It really is.
That's one hell of a set.
Yeah, but it's all good. Well, I also throw in a copious amounts of red meat. But it's all
that means you're a real man, actually, to be honest with you. You're like the John Wayne of politics. It's all good.
Well, I'm probably about as belligerent too. Yes, I do.
Oh, well, then there you go.
Yeah.
Listen.
Oh, don't forget bourbon and cigars. That's my
listen, I put that in the chat. I was like, listen, this is a man who loves bourbon, cigars, and has taste in bad sports teams.
That's harsh.
You got my vote.
That's harsh. Well, I'm just going to be fair and say we did get rid of Tom Brady and we got Cam Newton, so shit happens.
Yeah, man. It's all good.
But
so again, I really think that Jonesy's absolutely right. The kind of, you know, and again, I'm an anarchist. This is, you know, politics. I play in that game only when it serves my purposes, and which is generally to educate. And because I'm, like I said, there's no way I'll ever get elected to anything because I not lie. and so you know, who's gonna vote for the big fat guy who's going, tear it all down, we don't need nobody ruling over nobody. You know, nobody's gonna vote for that.
It might happen, bro. I told you, listen, the ticket is Ye and Marcus Pulis 2024.
I'd run with Kanye.
Let's go.
Let's go. We have Nico out there. We get me out there. We get the whole Hotep Nation behind you. It's a possibility.
The most interesting thing that I think I found out is Dave Smith running for president for the Libertarian ticket. I'm like, whoa, you mean you guys are actually going to do something different? You're going to get rid of and see, this is one thing that I said up it, and I'm unabashed about, y'all know, I'm unabashed about where I stand on issues. And when I went up to Pork Fest, because I was up at Pork Fest this weekend, had a great time, by the way. It's like, it's as close as I could imagine being at Woodstock. So I was up there, and it was a great time.
How'd that go?
I blended in actually very well. Those are my people. And I told him, I was like, look, man, if I can't make an impact in 2022, I'm probably going to be over here with you guys. Yeah. And I'm like, that I'm going to be going up there all week next year instead of just for a couple days. But my whole thing was
it's a
basically
festival.
Libertarian festival, and it ranges all the way from more establishment libertarians to full-on anarchs, and it was a hell of a lot of fun. Great intellectual
kind of crowd, right?
Yeah,
everybody from the Adam crowd to the Spike Cohen crowd to the Josh. Yeah, okay, all right, I get it.
Yeah, it's the only people that would not have fit in very well are like the Joe Jorgensens of the world. Wow. And that's what I kept saying. And that's what I said when I was up there. I was like, look, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I think putting Joe Jorgensen on the ticket was the biggest mistake you guys ever did.
Absolutely.
And they're like, Joe Jorgensen wasn't that bad. I go, no, Spike Cohen should have been the top of the ticket because Spike Cohen is a real dude. He's a regular guy that can relate to people. and he can have the cultural conversation and the intellectual conversation, and he's not so intellectual that he turns people off. Like when you start having an intellectual conversation, and I blame the right for this too, and the people on the right that do this are the Ben Shapiro's and the Charlie Kirks and the people who only want to have an intellectual discussion. These people, they get into an intellectual discussion, and you notice they start to rationalize really crazy dystopian messed up stuff, and they start to sound like Thanos, where it's like, it's okay, rip the band-aid off, let everyone get screwed, it'll all work itself out. Or yes, we can have a utopia if we annihilate half the universe, then the other half will live in abundance. And I'm like, no, that's actually really bad.
Right.
You know who thought like that? Mao thought like that. Mussolini thought like that. Hitler, Gentile, Goebbels, Trotsky, they all thought like that. Every dictator of mankind thinks it's okay. Maybe if I just annihilate a few villages, everything will work out. You'll all get in line after I kill the rest of your family. That's horrible. We need to stop listening to intellectuals like that and start electing real people who cares about solutions.
For those people that hear that list that you put out and are like, well, yeah, but those are all just foreign communists, I would add to that list people like Wilson, like
Woodrow Wilson, FDR, LBJ,
George W. Bush. I would
Hamilton.
I would add Hamilton. I would.
Alexander Hamilton.
It's a damn good play. You wash your mouth out with soap.
Good play, but that guy was a snake.
Yes, he was.
The reality is, if you compare Hamilton, sorry, Nico, go ahead. No, okay, so let me make my point. And then Nico,
you were on the tangent.
Yeah, with Hamilton, I do have to say, though I do agree, of the founding fathers, if you will, he was probably the worst, one of the worst at least. But if you take him and compare him to anybody else in Congress, anybody that's in Congress now, except maybe Thomas Massey, and maybe Rand Paul, if you compare him to anybody but those two dudes, then he's better. By
far.
Yeah, for sure.
By far, because at least he was intellectually consistent. My biggest issue with him was the use of force and the use of taxation, the amount of authority that the government was allowed to justify, because his arguments are what led to the slippery slope. Everyone that keeps shitting on the whole slippery slope mentality, guess what? We're on the slope. The slope is not, this isn't just an idea. Correct. This has been proven to happen. In 1 year, we've slidden so far down the slope that now it's like Yetis are at the top of the mountain throwing snowballs at us, and they just keep hitting us. It's like watching Lucy pull the football out from Charlie Brown, and he just keeps falling on his ass repeatedly. How many times are we going to try and kick the football?
Sure. Nico, you were going to say?
I was going to say, to the victor goes the spoils of war, so you can freely change however you want somebody to perceive it. And on top of that, this just ringing bells is the intellectuals of today. I'm not going to say that they're not intellectuals, but the way that they provide their intelligence to other people is how do you put it? It's more so like it's corrupted as
demeaning.
Like most that work too. That demeaning factor most definitely will get somebody smacked. But like it's the way that they say, it's demeaning. Whereas like what you say, you can't prove it to me. I have a piece of paper that shows that I went to college or some form of like that, and my rhetoric and my history shows me to be right. And it's like trying to talk somebody in that field or realm. You have to tiptoe around landmines unless you got your own landmines of your own.
You will see intellectuals that use their supposed intellectual currency to enforce their ideals on others aren't really intellectuals.
Correct.
No,
they're just very good at manipulating a situation. Information is very subjective.
True.
We can sit up here. What's it called? Like a Rorschach test, right? We can look at the same ink blot, and I can see a butterfly, and Nico can see, a pinwheel, and Marcus can see a rabbit, and Julian can see, the sun. So when it comes to these supposed facts, when it comes to politics, there are no real facts. It's all just a way to use numbers and facts and figures to pervert what's really going on. And I just believe in today's politics, when you name everybody in Congress and all of these people in the past, we have to be honest with ourselves as Americans. The people that are in power are not trying to solve the problem. America has never solved one problem, ever. Mm-hmm. America hasn't solved one problem with
we just kicked the bucket down the road.
Oh, we don't even kick the bucket down the road. We actually thrive off of the problem.
For sure.
Yeah.
We thrive off the problem. Like, when as Americans are we going to realize that the problem is actually the currency for the nation? You have a war on drugs. What if they made more money off of than the supposed war on drugs? We go over to the Middle East and we're over there to bring peace, and we bring more war and more weapons, and we make more money off of this shit. We have COVID-19. They just destroyed probably 70% of small business owners in one fell swoop. And guess who made more money than anybody during the supposed pandemic? Walmart, Home Depot, Target, all the hugest corporations. Mm-hmm. They made record profits, and they're not going to stop. And what they've done is they've been able to effectively slice their workforce by a quarter, because some of those buildings that they had open, you needed people to work the lunchroom. You needed custodians. You needed the guy to service the HVAC unit. You don't have to do that anymore without a brick and mortar building. That's gone now. So what they've effectively done is they've totally paradigm shifted our economy within 11 months.
For sure.
That's not even the crux of it. That's not even scratching the surface. The real issue that we have here, and I decided to put off that book I said I was going to write on the rise of the Second Amendment and the Black community.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do one called about talking points. It's going to be called talking out of both sides of your mouth.
I've been known to do that.
Because both parties do this, and it's exactly what you just said, Jonesy, where they take a stat and they leave out everything that contributes into that stat, or they cherry pick something and they leave out all the nuances of reality, and they leave out the data. What defines that stat? What were the metrics that were used? What was the actual study that was done? How did you even ask the question? Yeah. And of course, everyone bastardizes history. History to me is very simple. You take everything that happened in a single moment that you're describing, and then you convey that. Anything else, perception, opinion, all that, anything else is bull. It's you trying to attach your own bias onto a situation. Whereas I say give it all, everything from every angle that was happening. And it would take a lifetime just to study World War II.
For sure.
Yeah, but you got to ask the intention, though. You got to ask the intention behind all these numbers, all these facts, all these figures, all these talking points.
It's the confirmation bias.
See, the thing that we never look at is what is the true intention of the powers that be? No one ever spends any time on that, and that is the crux of all of this. We sit up here, we have all of these think tanks, we run for office, we do the best we can in our community, we try to affect change the best we all know how, right? Mm-hmm. But what we got to understand is that we are fighting an unwinnable war because the people that are above us are not just. The system is not just. It's not just. It's not meant to be just. And we need to be honest with ourselves. That's the main message. That I don't care who wins, and I don't care what party you run for. I want somebody that is going to actually address the fact that the system is beyond corrupt, and it needs to change. And whoever can do that, and if it's you, Julian, if it's Joe Jorgensen, I know she's like the Diet Coke version of an anarchist and a libertarian. But
she's like the Diet Coke version of me.
You
I'm
think
not
so?
even
I-
full
I
anarchist or
agree.
libertarian. She's like the Diet Coke version of me. Anyone that tries to take, all right,
It
let
might
me
be more like
let me be angry black man for a moment, because this aggravated the shit out of me. What level of intellectual laziness does it take to be an isolationist and open borders at the same time? See, you can have a military and a government and defined borders and enough to be isolationist and protect that, or you can be open borders with no government and completely anarchist. But you can't have both. If you have borders and you're an isolationist, to be an isolationist, you have to actually have a military. You have to fund that military. You have to train that military. You have to have defined borders, and you have to be able to protect those borders. If you're open borders, you have to have it takes nothing. You might as well get rid of the government because it's going to collapse anyways. You can't have a welfare state. You can't have any of that. So the intellectual laziness of I want to hold both positions at the same time is bullshit. It's bullshit. It aggravates the shit out of me, and it's because you have uber people from the right that feel no longer placed on the right. They came into the libertarian movement, and you have uber people on the left that are anarchists, and they came into the libertarian movement. When in reality, the libertarian movement was supposed to be the most limited version of government you could possibly have in an operable society.
Well,
but now they're advocating for both no government and maximum government at the same time. And I'm like, did you guys even bother to think this out? Or did you just think because this woman has 7 PhDs that she knows what the hell she's talking about? Anybody that lives in reality or has been outside the country knows damn well the rest of the world is not libertarian. Which is why I say libertarian policy works as domestic policy, because as soon as you walk outside the US borders, guess what? We have not just enemies of our own making, which we have a lot of those, because we stick our noses in everybody else's shit. We have a lot of enemies. We have, I'd say, 3 enemies, legitimate enemies. We have
before
Iran,
you get into that,
we have
Julian,
China.
For sure. Before you get into that, I do need to point out something. Although I agree with you with Joe Jorgensen that she is absolutely. I didn't vote for her. Could not even bring myself to the poll because none of these people mattered to me. So at the end of the day, I don't like any of those either. But I
gotta say, I respect that.
Yeah, and I do have to say there is another way, and I'll get back to Joe Jorgensen because I have to make a couple points. One of those is Adam proposed a solution that stands in the face of what you're talking about. Most of the time, you are correct when you say it comes back to the Milton Friedman quote: "You can't have a welfare state and an open borders at the same time." And most people attack the open borders side and ignore the welfare state portion.
Oh no!
So we like.
No.
So,
heavens no, heavens the Murgatroyd.
So I guess we'll wait for Julian to come back in, and then I'll make my point.
Y'all want to play rock paper scissors?
right.
Well, I'm actually doing that right now. I'm actually drawing a plane.
Nice. But all right, he's coming back in.
My bad. I went to go adjust the camera, and then immediately it just was like, no, you're not allowed to do that. Damn fascist cell phones.
So back to my point. What basically happened, what Adam's proposal was that kind of stands against what you were talking about is, again, comes back to localization. This country was not founded as a constitutional republic. That is not the case. The case was it was founded as a confederation of states. It was formed as under the Articles of Confederation, where what would be the states that were united kind of worked out where they'd kind of help each other out. They'd defend each other if they were attacked, those kinds of things. at the end of the day, what Adam's proposal was that we take our military, which is by far, you can take all of the other 9 of the top 10 funded militaries in the world, and it does not equal what us, the number one, and I shouldn't say us, the United States, does not equal it. And you divide that because part of the process was to take the military that we have that is enormous. First of all, bring them home and give all of that material and also ammunition and men to each of the 50 states. And each of those 50 states would be in charge of defending themselves. And because you have apportioned it, and of course you're not going to give like a big destroyer or an aircraft carrier to Indiana because it's a landlocked. They get the state, or they get the tanks, and you'd apportion it the correct way. So in that situation, in that world, if Adam had won, which obviously he did not, he didn't even win the Libertarian nomination, but had he won, it'd be really hard for any country to try to attack the United States or to invade the United States from any country, because one, you wouldn't have a firearm behind every tree. You'd have a tank, you'd have aircraft carriers, you'd have all of that behind every tree and every blade of grass.
Technically, that's how we're already set up.
That's how we're supposed to be set up. But
I mean, technically, militarily, that's how we're already set up. I mean, but each state has their own Marine Corps Reserve, their own National Guard, Air Reserve, Navy Reserve. I mean, we literally have each state, in lieu of their old militias, which we used to have, we have our own National Guard. And while I don't like to equate the militia to the National Guard, because it's not. A militia is you grab your gun, I grab my gun, and we go to kick ass. It's time to do freedom shit. Now, with the National Guard, the issue is, now, I want to draw a line here.
Before you get into that,
the officers in the National Guard, they take their orders from the state and the federal government. However, the enlisted members, most of them are statesmen. Most of them are statesmen. If you were... And they've asked us many times whether we'd turn guns on, we'd forcibly confiscate guns and so on and so forth, put down riots and shit, little surveys. And almost to the man, the enlisted men say, hell no.
Right.
You'll never convince a Texan that they're not a Texan first.
Correct.
Period.
Right.
And in New Hampshire, we're the same way. We're the Texas of the Northeast. We're New Hampshire boys first. And up here, you will find a gun behind you might find some other shit behind trees if you try to come up here. I mean, let's be honest. The ATF does not know everything.
For sure. Hey, man, I'll make my final point in a moment, but I just have to add this. I live in Indiana where there is a major naval base. Put that together, which is the dumbest governmental bullshit ever. But at that naval base,
oh, wait a minute. Isn't it a naval weapons base, right?
Yeah, it is a naval weapons base. Correct. It's called.
Yeah. You guys do cruise missiles.
You're right. They lost a Stinger missile. Lost it. Middle of Indiana. Lost.
It's not lost. That was taken. That was stolen.
Yeah, right. I know. There's a hillbilly with that shit in his garage. Right. But
you little Mississippi leghound boy.
Right.
It's not supposed to be funny, but it is.
Right.
Don't try me, you bastards.
Right. That is
damn
exactly
Thomas.
Damn. China's coming over here trying to take everything. I got something for you.
Right, exactly. But back to my point with Joe Jorgensen. One of the things I have to point out, and yes, Adam and I are friends, and yes, if he runs again, I will support him. But at the end of the day, what we got the last time around, I was a delegate, and so was Chad, to the Libertarian Convention. Adam lost. He made it into the final running. Yeah. He was not elected. I think he got 4th in the first ballot. He may have been 4th or 5th, but he got on he was on the primary voting tablet, and that's huge because he was talking about, completely getting rid of the federal government, about dissolving the federal government. And he managed to get enough support to be one of the final contenders. So that's big. That's huge.
Yeah, it is.
And what he laid the groundwork for is for Dave Smith, is for Spike Cohen. The next libertarian candidate damn well better be libertarian. And I'm not talking barely libertarian. I'm talking they damn well better be libertarian or they will not get elected. And that's huge. So one of the things that's happening is the paradigm that you're talking about within the Libertarian Party is changing. And I hope that at some point, although I still back down and say, I don't think that these assholes who bomb children are going to let them take over anything just because people voted. But they will at least be able to make a damn bit of ruckus.
I think we spoke about this before, and I got a plan for you. And it's the one thing most libertarians are not willing to do. And it's the same problem that Republicans have. And it's employ a long-term strategy.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Intellectual purity arguments fall short with the majority of people because most people are not intellectually pure.
Sure.
Most adults have not read the Constitution in their adult life.
For sure.
Let alone within the past 5 years.
What makes you
intellectual pure? When you take an idea, you take a principle and you follow it to its farthest reaching conclusion.
You can do that with a comic book.
Yes, you can.
So that doesn't make you intellectually pure.
That's the problem. That's exactly the problem. Is it basically leads you to fantasy. It leads you out of the realm of reality of what can actually happen, and leads you to a point where now you're starting to talk about things that will never, ever happen because most people do not live there. As a matter of fact, you'll find maybe 1% of the population that is willing to even entertain that fantasy land. You end up in a point where you're screaming into the wind and everyone else is looking at you like you're crazy.
That kind of sounds like what happens when you run for office. Sounds the exact same
doesn't
thing.
It? Doesn't it though?
So, like, dude, like, let's
what
be
I'm
for
saying
real.
What I'm saying is Dave Smith and Spike Cohen are the best shot the Libertarian Party is likely to have for an entire generation. It's sheerly well. I'm going to make my case for a minute, and it's sheerly for one reason. Both men understand how to make a case, and they understand how to take incremental wins long term. Now, what I was explaining to the Mises Caucus this past weekend, and all the people that I met, was one of the most effective things that you guys could do, or the libertarians could do, is to infiltrate the Republican Party and run a whole bunch of libertarians as Republicans, and then break off right before being sworn in.
Oh, the Tea Party.
No, it's not going to work. It's not going to work because the Tea Party didn't work for multiple reasons. Mostly, they allowed a whole bunch of people who weren't actually Tea Partiers to run under the Tea Party. And that was kind of an issue. But their method was never to break off. Whereas libertarians most people that run as libertarians are actually libertarians.
Yeah,
I mean, if you got the balls to run as a libertarian.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely. If you get people that are entrenched in this shit and they start seeing the money and they start seeing the power and they start feeling like, their personal beliefs are what's going to shape and change the world, then they're going to get corrupted too, man.
They're never going to want to leave.
Yeah, so getting back to your point, not to cut in, but we only got another 30, 40 minutes, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But my thing is this. Everybody says that what they're doing and how they're running is more viable and it's realistic, but all of this shit is really not realistic because it's hard to get people to actually do their job when they're human beings, and they can be corrupted. They could be corrupted with money. They could be corrupted with influence. They could be corrupted with a lot of different things. And no matter who you are, the further you go up the ladder, the bigger the corruption gets. So the only solution is to let's land this plane, right? You can't see the plane. Oh, yes. Let's land this plane and let's burn it down, damn it. I'm an anarchist now. The indoctrination chamber hasn't happened, but I am an anarchist, and I want to be announcing that right now. I'm sorry.
You've always been one, boss man.
That's right.
All right.
I already knew.
You know what? That actually that reminds me of
I'm
the
not-
point that Michael Malice had said that those who need leaders aren't qualified to choose them.
No
Absolutely,
shit.
Daryl. You're completely right.
No.
Absolutely.
No
And that's
kidding.
majority of America who's so open for their leadership to take over and say, save us from whatever is happening. And the fact that, you know, most Americans are ignorant, not to just their own rights and things of that nature, but to the outside world. Like, you can ask majority of Americans who aren't cultured. So like people who aren't immigrants, granted, we're all immigrants, but like the people who've been in America for generations to generations, they don't know shit about other places unless it's placed in the news. Like
sure.
their perception is only in American values and things of how they see it.
Yeah.
Their perception of like another place's government, you know, oh, well, you know, they might be a little crueler and they might have certain laws for their women, but I would assume they're the same when it's actually not, you know?
No.
And so this whole idea of personal freedom and being an anarchist resides in everywhere. So it's not necessarily the personal area. Granted, the cultural influence might add a little spice to it, but at the end of the day, we all perceive freedom to being what freedom truly is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, the thing
Yeah,
about
and-
that is it amazes me because it seems that we've somehow built in our culture that let's be more concerned about the freedoms of, you know, everywhere else, as opposed to the, you know, fact that the government's bending us over backwards and dancing in front of our
True.
faces, and
True.
it's right underneath our nose. But you know,
True.
but we're
Yes.
concerned with everywhere else.
True.
That is exactly the problem. That's why I say I'm a nationalist when it comes to foreign policy. Because I don't understand why we send people to DC to care about everywhere else. You notice the greatest argument anyone in the Republican Party has had is why does everyone else in the world get special rights? Why are we taxing American citizens and we're justifying giving money to other people? Why are we giving money to China as if they're a third world country? Aren't
Because
they?
they allow
Didn't they just declare? Yeah, they just declared people's war on the United States in 2019. Or did everybody forget about that? They just declared unrestricted warfare on the United States in 202019.
America
Overtly,
has short attention
publicly.
spans. The world.
Well,
Yeah.
they
has short
did.
attention
They
spans.
So
deployed
we're
TikTok.
literally taking American money, we're taxing American citizens against their will, and we're sending that money to a country who wants to kick our ass. And then we're doing it to Iran, and we're doing it to Pakistan and North Korea. We fund both sides of each war. We fund more countries than there are countries in the world. This is my problem. I'm like, it should not be hard to think of Americans first. All right? If that's the only thing that you get right in DC, think of Americans first. Hell, that sets you above 90% of politicians that go to DC.
It
Right there,
depends on
just
who's
that
paying you,
one
though.
thing.
It depends on who's paying you.
Well,
You know-
this is why I'm running. I literally, my goal is to go to DC, show what you should have in a representative, drop the mic, and walk away. Kind of like an action hero walking away from an explosion at the end of the movie.
So you will be the
Because,
sexual
frankly-
chocolate of you'll be the sexual chocolate of Washington.
I'll even sing for them too.
Right.
But here's
Well-
the thing. Jonesy pointed out earlier that absolute power corrupts, hands down.
Right.
Yes,
I'm
it
not
does.
saying that you specifically you win and you get corrupted, but I feel as if, and it goes to a point of community and society, but I feel as if one person running for an office, that don't like power can corrupt power. So it's like multiple people with the same mindset still running, they're still individuals. We've already talked about or seen the movie and how multiple ants defeat one locust. and we're all the ants. We've all been the ants in this movie.
Sure.
So it's like I stumble upon this, like, how the hell does one person with his little coalition of people behind him defeat the absolute power?
You know how? So it's like I said earlier, my gift is being able to talk to anybody, anywhere, both sides of the aisle. And you may not necessarily agree with me, but you understand exactly where I'm coming from. I can utter the exact same principles that I stand for, regardless of who I'm standing in front of. And they understand, surely, because I use their language to convey it. Because I'm not so ignorant to think that everybody thinks exactly like me. I understand everyone has got their own culture, both ethnically, regionally, racially. It doesn't matter. We all listen to different music. We come from different backgrounds, whatever. I understand by listening to people where they're coming from, and I use their language to convey the exact same message. So if my message is liberty and freedom, which is what we're really talking about, we have failed to market liberty. Now think of how pathetic that is, that we cannot market liberty when people literally come from around the world to die to make it here for liberty. And then they get here and they find out that they don't really have it. Now, granted, on the sliding scale of liberty, we're far better than the majority of the damn world.
21,
that's still
I
a
think.
sliding scale. Yeah.
We're like 21st, 17th, something like that.
Yeah, and it's and we're not moving in the right direction, unfortunately.
Correct. You know, but at the end of the day,
thing is
you're right.
The message. Marketing matters.
Yeah, and you're right. Marketing does matter, and we can learn. You know, we've talked about that you know, we need to be coming up with solutions, and that's absolutely true. All of the people, all the 5 people here, and when Chad gets here, the 6 people here, and most of the people in the chat, all of these people, we're all about offering solutions. I understand that. But there were people before us that offered solutions, and they offered solutions to these very problems. You know, everybody knows, for the most part, who studied any kind of libertarian idea, who Murray Rothbard is. And what he advocated for, you can look to him for some advice. And what he advocated, and these are my words, but they're based on Rothbard, he advised that you speak radically and act pragmatically. You tell the people what you are, who you are. If you believe that taxation is theft, you say taxation is theft, and then you act pragmatically, which means if as a congressman you can reduce taxes by 0.1%, do it. Sure, it is only 0.1%, but that is the direction that you are going for. And let's be clear, do you know where, just take a wild guess where Rothbard learned this strategy?
I don't know where he learned the strategy.
He learned it from the communists. He learned it because they've been doing this for 100 years. They have been putting us towards socialism for 100 years. And they tell you right out to your face exactly what they believe. They tell you that they do not believe in private property. They do not believe that individuals make choices, that it is about the group, it is about the state. They tell you that. And then they take just a little bit of more taxation, just a little bit of their political agenda every time a Republican or a Democrat gets into office. They move that needle just a little bit closer to socialism. And I will agree with you that Trump was better than many presidents we've had in the past 100 years. That is for sure. The competition is not that good.
And I mean, we're already there with communism. Like, what's the difference between you paying your house off and having to pay property tax on it forevermore, or they can take it in the tax lien? It's the same shit, man. It's just I don't think
technically we're dealing with fascism.
Yeah, well, potato,
yeah, various shades, various shades of Marxism.
Potato, right? But the thing is that, you know, we sit here and we talk about taxation and stuff, right? But the thing that I think that misses the mark when it comes to people in this level of society, like such yourself, all of us here, people who are poor and don't own shit make up most of this country.
Sure.
So taxation and the business of America is a foreign concept, because if you don't own anything, you're not really thinking about taxation on a daily basis, because you're just going to the store and buying a beer and you're paying your little fucking 7 cents and it's okay, whatever, that's the price. It doesn't hit home until you own things.
Correct.
And I think that is the reason why there's not as much outrage, because you have so many people in this country who start off in a social standing such as like how it is in a communist country, and they're never able to rise above their circumstances. The only difference between America is that you get to pursue happiness. In other countries, you just don't get to pursue happiness. You rarely get there, but at least you get to pursue it. Now, I'm happy now being on the air with my brother Marcus. I got it, but I'm sorry.
Right on. No,
I'm
you're
gonna
right.
take the opposite position for a minute.
As usual.
Yep. In the United States, you do get to pursue happiness, but we also got to look at, you have people who are born with wealth, and second generation. You have people who make wealth, and they rise as high as they want to. You got a rich mindset. You got a rich mindset, and you'll build wealth no matter what people put in front of you. There are those people who are beyond the pale. Well, I say there are those people who are beyond the pale, and they're beyond the pale for a reason. It's because they act differently, they think differently, they do things differently.
They were given things differently too.
There is also, yes, there are also a lot of people who are given things differently. But then you look at second generation wealthy people. What do they commonly do?
You say they mess it
all their
up.
wealth.
See, wealth and wealth is subjective, man, because you have people that come from 5 or 6 generations.
But there's the fiat, though. The fiat is where you taught how to keep that wealth, where you taught how to grow that wealth, where you taught how it was built. See, it's kind of like if I teach my son a lesson, if my son embodies that lesson, then it is going to compound with him and his kids, hopefully, if he continues the tradition. If I teach my son a lesson and he throws it out the window, it's like, nah, Dad, I like smoking weed, smoking crack.
See, true wealth isn't contingent on one person from the next generation. Like the Rothschilds, it's a corporation, bro. Like one person could be a fucker, but that's not going to sink that family.
You're right.
So
they built a network of wealth.
Yeah, they are the living embodiment. They're a living embodiment of wealth and the monarchy and everything. So we're not going to talk about that. They're number
we can't even quantify their wealth.
Yes, but I'm saying is
quantify.
There are certain families in this country who are built that way, and there are families that live next to you and I. Right, we live in the Northeast that are that way. You can have one screw up son. You're going to have that one screw up kid. If you have 8 or 9 kids, one of them's going to be a fuck up. Let's just be for real here, right?
It's going to be a Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
You beat me to it, Daryl.
And Hunter Biden is actually a
I
legend.
knew it. I can't even with y'all. I knew one of y'all was going to do it too.
Listen, any man that has snorted a line off of 3 strippers and one
Parmesan cheese out of the hotel floor.
That's right.
Sure.
He's a fucking legend, Daryl. Come on, man. Legend.
And he's going to get away with it.
Yeah,
man. That's not even the height of it. I mean, how the fact that he can fill out, I guess, what's that ATF form? I think it's, I'm probably butchering it, but basically you have to fill it out when you do a background check for a firearm. And of course, it asks you pretty clearly, have you been addicted to, basically using illegal substances? And of course, he writes a fucking book claiming that, he's obviously smoking Parmesan cheese out of the hotel floor and, and is doing, all types of, substances off the backs of, low-wage strippers. And he can get away with it.
How do you know they were low-wage strippers? They are the finest strippers that money has to buy. I interviewed one of them. She's a fine person.
Did you really?
Yes, I did.
Wow. Well,
yes, I did. You need to check.
I mean, I'm not an expert on the wages of strippers, so I'll have to, take back my statement.
Wait. You interviewed one of Hunter Biden's strippers?
Yes, I
did. I'm sure she works really hard.
Yes, how did I not hear about this?
Well, because listen, sometimes you guys see greatness in your face and you miss it. Her name was Leanne Starr. Check out the interview. It's actually excellent. Not to do a shameless plug on my show.
Oh, do you?
Leanne Starr?
Leanne Starr. I have the clip when she talked about when she, you know, I have it. I didn't show it because I didn't want to get her in any trouble, and then, you know, they've banned her Twitter, and, you know, I hope she comes back. She's an
I didn't
excellent
realize
person.
it. I didn't realize it was her.
Yes, listen, the Podfather knows all, and I will tell you one thing: she is a high class stripper, and she's a good person. Damn it, you wash your mouth out with soap, Hotep Daryl.
I've got to repent for
She's
myself.
a nice lady. She is a
Beautiful
nice
woman.
lady. But
But, you know, I'm
hold
pretty
up,
sure
but
she's not available 24/7. So at some point in time, while he's, you know, spinning the big bag, I'm sure, you know, it went accordingly to whoever. But, you know, I was more give myself some credit. I was more speaking of the ones who do clean up on Sundays.
I get you. I get you. I get you. Like Itchy, the stripper
honestly,
from San Diego.
but what I was about to say is that what it requires to build that sort of wealth that you can't squander in a single generation is damn near inhuman.
Yeah.
It is damn near inhuman. I mean, let me just rewind. At my most successful point, I was not sleeping. I was literally eating just to keep running. It was nicotine and just all go. No quit. But and it would have taken me to take literally every single opportunity that came my way, to never turn down an opportunity, never turn down an hour of work, never substitute anything convenient for anything else. And I was rising fast as I could possibly imagine. And even then, I still took naps. I still didn't go to things. I missed out on opportunities just to be able to take the opportunities that I had. It is damn near inhuman to acquire that sort of wealth. So I'm not going to dismiss it and say that everyone can do that, because the reality is that everyone can't. Not even the above average person can be Jeff Bezos.
To amass that kind of wealth, you have to be inhuman, though. You have to do inhuman things to others, like the robber barons. Why were they called the robber barons? Yeah,
you have to have the government behind you.
Definitely, but why were the robber barons the robber barons? It wasn't like Vanderbilt went and was the most competitive and he was the smartest in the railroad business. They went and they killed other railroad companies and they took over. And, you know, like, it wasn't like Andrew Carnegie was this saint. So let's we got to temper what it takes to get that kind of wealth. You have to be
These people were definitely not saints. And I think that's one of these things that we need to, like, I know in the liberty movement, we like to hold up these people who accomplish greatness as the example of, hey, look, see, everybody can do it. Just pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Stop sucking at life. But the reality is not everyone can.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
That's not reality. My reality, my idea of wealth is to be able to provide for my family, be able to live a comfortable life, and to be able to hand a better world to my son than I took. That's it. That's my idea of wealth.
How's that going for you?
To be able to die with a smile on my face.
Oh my God.
At the end of the day, how's that going? Because I'm looking at a world. Honest. I would love. I'm going to be honest. Would love to get back to the '80s. Would love it.
I'm going to be honest for a minute.
You were a god in the '80s.
From my perspective, in 2011, when I was medically retired, I was an alcoholic. I lived in a garage with my wife and my newborn son. I could not get a job after my entire world was shattered when I could no longer be a Marine. I could not get a job in Southern California. No one wanted to hire me. Everyone assumed that we all had PTSD and we were a danger to the workplace. Right. You could see it when people look at you in their face and they see that you have a military record and they're just sort of like, oh. Then I got sick of living useless and being useless. So I went to school. Then I said, basically being a victim. So I got sick of it and I started going to school. Then I started working. Then eventually I kept moving up the ladder. No matter where I went, I kept kicking ass. Then finally I got a chance to move back to New Hampshire. When I moved back to New Hampshire, I worked my ass off. I made it a condition of my work, of being hired, that you had to offer me any overtime at the beginning of my shift and the end of my shift. So it all had to go to me first. You had to offer it to me first. I did the same thing when I was out in California. All right, cool. Yeah, I'll work here, but you have to offer me all the overtime bit. I'm like, you have a
That's
problem
Suge
filling
Knight kind of
overtime?
way to do that.
Yeah. I'm like, you got a problem filling overtime? Cool. I want that overtime. All of it has to be offered to me first. And I got, okay, we have a problem filling overtime. Why wouldn't I offer it to you? And I was able to rise fast as hell.
Mhm.
All right. I'm not, I don't pretend as if people can't be successful. But my point is, when I moved back home between 2011 and 2018, I bought multiple cars. I went from absolute destitution and at the lowest point in my life to buying multiple cars. I own a house. I still have multiple cars. I'm selling my 56 Plymouth because I have no time to work on it anymore. But now I'm running for Congress. There is no limit when I refuse to let you limit me.
For
I mean,
sure.
I'll be damned if somebody stands in front of me and tells me I cannot be successful. You might get to jaw checked before I step over your body to go be successful.
You are
Now,
a very
flip
violent
side-
anarchist. You are very
I'm
violent.
not an anarchist.
Yeah, well, no, we're trying to indoctrinate him here. Marcus.
I
Come
know,
on,
I
man.
know.
But now let me be clear though. My goal, like I said, my goal in going to DC is to be able to come home. So far, I've already handed a better life to my son than the one I had.
Mhm.
So far, I've accomplished far more than I ever had. My son is probably going to watch this tomorrow. And he watches all my podcasts, watches all my interviews, all my conversations, and I don't shield
apologize
him
for the
from the
cursing.
world around him. Oh no, he hears far worse from me. But
Listen, and I want you to thank me for mentioning strippers too. You might like that one day. Sorry.
maybe I should have him hold off on watching this one. But I can't have him asking for a stripper at his 10th birthday.
Oh my God, he's only 10. I'm sorry, kid. Listen, strippers are ice cream. Strippers are ice cream. Ice cream is delicious.
For sure.
Well, I
And so
mean,
are strippers.
thanks to the current state of schools and education, I've already had to explain, homosexuality, cross-dressing, transgenderism, and just about everything else under the sun, including why math is racist.
How lucky are we?
Right.
Yeah, no kidding.
Wait, can we can you go over why math is racist?
I mean, come on, it's pretty simple, you know.
I mean, yeah, the division and all that, but like,
according to friggin' schools, I think it was Baltimore. I think it might have been Baltimore that basically said because black people do not score well at math, that math is inherently racist. And I was like, so they wanted to stop teaching college prep courses in math, specifically calculus. And I was like,
Yep.
Does 2 + 2 not equal 4 if you're black? I thought it did.
I've never heard calculus call me the N-word. Calculus
No
is okay
shit.
with me.
Right.
I've never heard an engineer call me the N-word.
Right.
I have.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know where people are coming up with this shit now. Now it's like I made a joke. I know someone's going to take it out of context because somebody asked me like why are they called the White Mountains? I'm like, obviously because it's white supremacy.
Right.
Boo!
I'm like,
that's such a dad joke right there. Boo!
Right.
Boo this
Right.
man.
Is the first thing that came to my head as soon as somebody was like, they're like, oh, why do they call it the White Mountains? Obviously, it's white supremacy. Everything's racist. It must be a vestige of George Washington, who apparently owned slaves.
Well, as our token white person for the evening, I
you are outnumbered today.
No, I'm the token white
You
guy.
are outnumbered today. I don't feel too good, does it, Marcus?
I know. You'd think I fit
That's
in
right,
with some
man.
black dudes, man. It's weird.
I want to feel superior for a moment. Let's start a basketball game right now.
As
Oh,
right, exactly. My fat ass couldn't do nothing. But but seriously, as the token white person, you know, if it were me, this is the racist thing. If it were me and somebody was saying, you know, we gotta you know, all these white people, they can't do math, so we got to make it easier. I'd be like, bitch, who the hell do you think you are, saying that my entire race is incapable of doing this? And these people over here who at least will admit the racism are the problem, but you saying that black people in mass cannot do math, that's fucking retarded. If black people are statistically, and I will argue that statistics are fucked up anyway, but those people would take a moment to look at the environments that have been placed on people of African descent in this country, they will see that there is a definite difference. And I bet if you take an apples to apples comparison, because let's be clear, most people in that are black in this country do not live in rural Indiana. They just don't. Where you know, most of because black people are a minority, so they're going to obviously be in bigger numbers in large cities. That makes fucking sense, because, you know, if they're only, I think, like 13%, 17% of the population,
13%.
obviously
13%.
When you're talking about a population that's divided out to beat all hell like it is in southern Indiana, there's not going to be a whole lot of black folks in there. There might be one or two, but
A whole lot in Gary, Indiana.
Right. But you put them in a big metropolitan area like Gary, where they don't have good education, they don't have good schools, you might just come up with a different kind of result from that.
You might come up with Michael Jackson too.
You could come out with Michael Jackson, that's for sure.
All the white people to the bad environment.
Can I just say that is one of the biggest things that the liberty movement misses out on. And I'm going to be a Republican for just a short fucking 2 minutes here. We like to retort that systemic racism isn't real when the left claims that everything in the world is systemic racism. I prefer to say, yes, it is real. It's a system of laws that created by Woodrow Wilson, FDR, and literally every Democrat since. What you don't have is you can't blame Republicans for the system, because we were never there to begin with. We abandoned you in 1877 and 1890. So, yes, there is a system. And yes, progressively over the years, we've gotten rid of that system at a national level, but now it's highly localized to every major city in the country, every hood that every black person lives in the country. So in order to be successful, you have to move out of your neighborhood to be successful.
That's not true.
Because
man.
we're a republic.
It's not true,
we're
man.
A republic. We're not
you
governed.
You could take over your neighborhood in the inner city.
You can. You can.
I've seen so many people.
Nancy.
That's what's happening in Atlanta right now.
Yeah, you know what it is?
They're trying to do in Detroit right now too.
It's W.B.E. Du Bois and the Talented 10th. When you take all of the talent and the skills out of a neighborhood, what you're left with is a ghetto. But if you stand pat, you stand firm, and you build your community, you can have what everyone else has. And I would like to get back to what you guys were saying.
Didn't we say that the last time we talked?
We talked about that a long time ago, bro.
Yeah.
And I
imagine if every rapper and every actor in the country, every NBA player moved back into the hood they grew up in and built it up.
Well, I don't see, but see, the thing about it is just because you have money doesn't make you a viable person to build a community. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, or just because you can shoot a basketball, your resources are subjective. Entertainment money's bullshit. I'm talking about the lawyers, the doctors, the real intellectuals, the people who build shit. That's how you build a community. Like, communities aren't built with rap lyrics. They're built with people who have actual skills. They're built with civil engineers and carpenters and electricians and people like that. But I wanted to say something real quick. You know, we talk about like calculus and saying that one race is inherently not suited to learn one thing. And that all comes from, like, if I go a little Michael Gearson, that's like the soft bigotry of low expectations.
It is.
And they put that on us. It's not even
a soft bigotry. It's a hard bigotry.
Yeah, but you know what, though? In today's day and time, it's not the substance of the matter. It's how it's being said and presented to you. So that is the biggest, I think, the biggest, not to go off on some black tangent, but in our community singularly, that's the problem. It's not listening to what's being said, but how it's being said. The fact that Joe Biden is more palatable than Donald Trump is the exact definition of that. Because Joe Biden is coming right into our community and slicing and dicing us up. He's militarizing the police. All of this, you got this fucking guy elected with people talk about defund the police and Black Lives Matter and all this other shit. And the first thing he passes are laws that are probably going to inherently affect our community in a negative manner. So that's the biggest thing. And with brothers like you that are running, man, I think, and I wanted to say this, and I'm going to shut up for the rest of the show. I'm sorry, guys. No. I feel like the best thing that you can do, man, is reach back out over the aisle. And I know you're up in New Hampshire, and there's not a lot of people that look like you up there. But I think that if you can dominate that sector of the community, because there are black people and people of color everywhere. People, if you can get into the minority communities and build a bridge with them and show them that, yo, listen, man, I'm a Republican, but I'm a Republican that comes from the bottom, and I built my way up. And my ideals are what helped me build my way up. And if you subscribe and deal with me, I can show you the way. We can show each other the way. We can work together. I think that's the message that needs to be built on the ground floor, because people think when you're a Republican, they think money, they think racism, and that's not the case, man. It's not the case.
It's not. Do you think most of it's a lack of understanding? Well, like I said earlier, we don't understand the language and how each other speaks, so we speak past each other. But imagine if I could get 20 million people, 43 million people in the black community. Imagine if I could get 10 million people to start doing the type of stuff that Dr. Boyce Watkins is doing. Imagine if I could get 10 million to do what Maj Toure is doing.
Hey, Julian, I don't mean to interrupt you, man, but Nico was about to drop a gem, man.
Oh, no. Well, it was most definitely in the line of what you were saying. But I think that instead of, like, if he were to go to a community and mention his affiliation to a political platform, just be the person you are.
Right.
Go help that community. Then say, oh, guess what? I'm a Republican. I'm not shiesty. You show them your true values opposed to showing them that value that they've been opposed to seeing all of their lives. Then, and you also said the language barrier isn't a thing. Because when I get to talking to another man, if we're on the same footing, it doesn't matter if I use a little bit of Ebonics, he's still going to understand where I'm coming from because the mindset is there.
Facts.
Exactly.
So
like, I do exactly that. Like, everyone keeps telling me I need to have a 30-second elevator pitch. I was like, really? Because the most successful elevator pitch that I've had is having a real conversation with somebody.
Sure.
I'm like, I'm a normal dude. I have normal conversations with people. And at the end of it, you either like me or you don't. You either rock with what I'm saying or you don't. And me telling you my party affiliation doesn't matter, because you're either there or you're not there. Mm-hmm. And with most of the people on the left that have watched my podcast, that we've had conversations with, even heated debates online, they'll still rock with me solely on the fact that they understand exactly where I'm coming from, and that I actually give a damn. Like, I do stuff on the ground. I work to fix our voting system. I work to get school choice. I'm actually the only candidate on the ground actually trying to do stuff, because regardless of whether I win my election or not, it's all about actually trying to fix the problem. And the problem is usually a local problem, not a federal problem. And the only reason I'm running federally is because somebody needs to protect the state from what happens from the federal government. Sure. And that's my issue. And when you're a federal representative, you do have a level of clout that you can use to use as leverage at the local level to get things done. And that's the only real benefit of being in DC, because otherwise DC sucks.
Right. So I want to give you a little bit of advice. I've seen some of this done. And because Nico is correct about just speaking, from your lips, and you're right that it is better to give like just a personal, conversation. But you do need, I've watched Adam do this thoroughly. I helped craft his a lot of his speeches, a lot of the things that you've seen Adam. If you ever paid attention to Adam running for when he was running for president, I was in on all those meetings. I helped craft many of the talking points that we talked about, and I watched Adam take the exact same speech. He would write a long speech. Let's say it's a half an hour long speech, right? I watched him do that, and then I watched him say, okay, but I also need a 10-minute speech. And he'd take that speech and break it down to a 10-minute speech. And then I watched him do a 5-minute speech, and I watched him do about a 2-minute speech. And it's good to have those kinds of things and say the same shit, say the same things that you're going to say, but have it ready because the one-on-one, when you're talking to me or you're talking to just Joe Schmo or Sally on the street, whoever it is, when you're talking to them, have that real genuine, answer their questions, talk to them particularly. But when you are talking to somebody who is like a news media, or they are some big wig somewhere, they're gonna want that script. Hey, Chad, I'm gonna finish this thought and then let you talk. So you need to be able to just spit out the same ideas in a variety of different time frames. So my suggestion is, yes, when you're dealing with just regular people and doing that, yes, do it off the cuff, but have several points. I also suggest you keep it to 3 to 4 major talking points, if you will, or 3 to 5 basic ideas, and be able to pivot to something like localization, which is excellent that you like that idea. When somebody corners you into, what are your ideas about this or that, you don't really have anything major about that idea, you haven't thought about it, you can go right but to localization. You can go, oh, okay, but shouldn't we be doing this in New Hampshire? This shouldn't be made this decision shouldn't be made in,
I have to say that to people often. Everyone wants me to be able to solve a local problem from DC, and I have to keep telling people that's not my job. That's actually the exact opposite of what I'm supposed to be doing. I can't do that. I can help you as an activist. I can kick ass on the ground. I can leverage my position, but I sure as hell am not going to make legislation to solve a local issue in DC. If we're conservatives and we're supposed to care about the Constitution, that's exactly what I'm not supposed to do. But I take your point, and I want to say, everyone, all of y'all that have listened to me on my podcast or any time talking before, I hate talking points.
Mm-hmm.
I hate them with a fiery passion.
Sure, and when I'm talking about talking points, I do have to. Ideas.
Yeah, but I want to clarify. There are a proper way to do talking points.
Sure.
A proper talking point fosters understanding and focuses on solving a solution. It opens somebody's mind to look deeper or to focus on solving the issue. The talking points I hate are the ones that
meaningless,
that the media uses, the antagonistic back and forth, my team versus your team, Bloods versus Crips bullshit that we deal with on a regular basis. That's the stuff I hate. So I do have my talking points, like that quote by Maj Toure, we're all airing our grievances against the state, and they convinced us to take each other out rather than hear our grievances. That land, everyone understands that. Everyone gets it. All of our talking points are crafted. All of our perceptions of reality are crafted based on the top 1% and the bottom 1% of either Larry the Cable Guy or Gordon Gekko, or babies, mamas, and drug dealers versus athletes, actors, and musicians. That's reality. It's all a giant facade. We've all been pretty.
So I got to take a pause and let Chad talk for a moment. And I want to say, look at this sexy beast coming in here, looking off of his dinner, looking all fancy. Look at him.
Hey,
You
Chad,
know,
when you
where's
start
your
getting
hat?
CPT time, bro.
This in the I didn't throw a hat on. My bad. No, I really like. I felt really bad because even though this is like super important, trying to close this deal with at work and everything, I felt bad because like I consider Julian a good friend, good ally, and I didn't feel like it was fair to just be like, sorry, man, I can't make it. But I had shit to do. Baby needs a new pair of shoes. I don't have a baby, but apparently it needs a new pair of shoes. But no, I don't know. I have no idea what y'all been talking about. I've been like looking in at the chat and stuff like that, but I couldn't listen because I was at the table and I was just kind of sneaking. I was kind of being a little sly with the phone at the table at dinner. But just touching on what y'all were talking about, like the whole talking points versus these local like real solutions and stuff. I think a lot of times what that talking point stuff centers around is not solutions, but the exact opposite. So many of the times these talking points are deliberately drawn up to create division and to foster division and to make it to where the solutions don't ever happen, because what the people who want to keep that stirred up want to see is more problems that they can offer fake solutions for that get them more money to not do anything about it, to then turn around and say, hey, look, there's still more problems. We need more of your money.
The Halligan dialect.
Yep. It's clicks, likes, ratings, retweets, and shares and donation dollars
Arguments.
that keep it all going. I mean,
Yeah.
Sure.
that's what I've been basing everything on, is every time I talk to all the other candidates running, and my whole job is to prove that you can run a campaign differently, that you can focus solely on solutions, that people really do care more about the solution than they do about the bullshit.
Right.
And every time they make a dumb tweet, I go and follow it up with the nuanced reality of how we actually have conversations. And yeah, it doesn't sound sexy at first, but I've proven time and time again that, look, so your tweet, your red meat tweet that you like so much got you 120,000 impressions on Twitter. Well, my nuanced reality, where most people are, got me 180,000. I'm like, let's look at them side by side. You dealt in the red meat stupidity of political gangbanging, and I dealt in a nuanced reality of where people would like our political discussion to be, and they understood exactly where I was going with this.
How much
I'm
of
like,
that
you
do
could drive the controversy, or you could drive the destruction of the country.
How much of that do you think is improved by the fact that you have some of these different? I mean, because you saw it with Trump. Like Trump, for all of the flaws, okay, you have to admit that he was able to cut through what decades past of filtered and curated connection with political leaders gave us, and he was instead able to cut straight through that and talk directly to everyone who had a Twitter account immediately. How much of that do you think fosters allowing people to see, like, hey, wait, there are actually people who are offering some solutions, versus the stuff that if you watched Fox News and MSNBC or CNN, you got just the curated version of what the talking points were. And now you actually can offer that alternative, whereas before you'd have to write an op-ed and hope that they actually publish the op-ed and hope that somebody actually reads it.
Sure.
It's been sliced through quite a bit. And I was able to make this case at all the events that I've flown to and stuff. First off, there's this idea of what a politically viable candidate is. and that's pushed down from the political establishment in DC. The idea that only what we think or what we say, the guy that checks all the boxes, is a politically viable candidate. And that's all bullshit, because obviously Donald Trump was not a politically viable candidate in DC's eyes, and we got him elected regardless. Yeah.
Right.
Until he took everybody else out. But his use of Twitter and going directly to people, I use my own Twitter. Obviously, I don't trust it to anybody else. I would never trust it to a staffer. It seems asinine to me. And if somebody asks me an honest question and isn't trolling, I'll do my best to answer it. And that lands well with people. And I've tried to make that point to all the other candidates that are running that I know, that, hey, run your own Twitter. Don't let a consultant post stuff for you. Their posts are usually based on some sort of poll of people who are politically savvy, or the stereotype of what they believe people really want. Most people are pretty reasonable and want reasonable people to run for office. Most people, now granted, there's a little bit of title worship, like I said earlier. However, that's dying off, and it's dying off very fast. And that's another dynamic that Donald Trump brought in. The idea of blue-collar, random, everyday people running for office, which I think is a good thing when normal people are actually solving problems, because normal people have a broader view of the world than your average person with a highly focused specialty in a single field. Usually our politicians are highly focused in being lawyers or liars, which is the other term that we normally use. But I think him being in the mix really did deconstruct a lot of things. Like I said about racial issues, the being able to have make a nuanced opinion cuts through decades of bullshit. Like I'll reference just in passing, and I'm trying to get the video from the speech. But I did a minority panel at Faith and Freedom in Allen, Texas. And I was asked to be the first one to speak by a bunch of the other people who were on the panel. Solely because once I start speaking, talking points are off the table. Because you're going to sound like an idiot if you start coming with talking points and I'm bringing actual solutions and nuanced reality.
Right.
And I started off, and consecutively down the line, halfway down the panel, it just compounded and compounded and compounded and got great, absolutely fantastic content. And then somebody who I will not name picked up the mic from the opposite end of the panel, skipped over like 5 people, and just ranted for like 6 minutes. And that rant for 6 minutes sounded stupid because it was a reiteration of the same point over and over again. Like the pen is red is pen. For as many ways as you could possibly think.
Before
that did not play.
You remember when Chris Christie dumped a bunch of coke on Marco Rubio's motherboard and made him like glitch out and his brain fried, and he kept repeating the same shit about Obama over and over again, and it was like, and then Chris Christie was like, "You see that? This is what happens. This is what DC does to you." And then the video comes back and does the same thing again.
Right. Yeah, and I do need, before we move on, and we probably ought to start moving towards wrapping up, but I do want to tell you a story, Julian, that you'll appreciate. Most people, when they talk to me, that if they think about me at all when it relates to politics, they think, oh, he's a libertarian and he's been in Adams camp forever, and that's all they know. The truth is that my very first interview that I ever got for anyone was for Christy Risk, who was running for Congress as a Republican in Indiana. That is a fact. And she was a constitutional Republican. Part of what she did when she was running for, and her and I were friends. I haven't talked to her in years, but part of what she did was she went to Washington, D.C. And when you were talking about running your own Twitter, somebody else got kind of famous for doing that, a little known congressman named Justin Amash. And she asked Justin, she said, Justin, I noticed that you run your own Facebook and your own Twitter and all of that. How do you do that? Because I see a lot of people don't. And how do you have time? And he said, I'll show you. And he took her to a hotel. And I'm trying to cut this as short as I can. But he took her to a hotel in D.C. And what you could see for two floors is you saw people. I'm adding Jonesy back. You saw people like congressmen going in one door, coming out, going in another door, going out. And there were 2 floors of this going on in this hotel. And she goes, what is this? And he said, this is the answer to your question. See all those doors? And she said, yeah. And he said, those are lobbyists. And those congressmen are going from one door to another door to another door to another door. How I have time to do my own Facebook is I don't fucking do that. So,
and I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest and say, I've already had people proposition me. I've already had people offer that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit.
What
I would
exactly
rather
proposition
fail. Oh, of course. We'll help your campaign if you say this.
Y'all remember the movie Distinguished Gentleman with Eddie Murphy, right? Where like all the people.
Hell yes.
It was a terrible movie though.
Everybody's trying to get in, get their little hooks in him and everything to try to get him on this committee and on that committee so that they can. Because then once you're bought in, and then they use like compromising, either situations or photographs. They set the one guy up to get caught drunk driving and all this other kind of shit with another woman and everything. Like it's a big cabal of like racket shit. Like George Carlin said, it's a big club and we ain't in it.
Let me be completely honest and say I'd rather go to jail.
Good. Keep
I'd
that.
rather go to jail. To be completely honest, I don't like. So I'll say again. I'm that guy. When I was active duty, I was raised like I've said before. My whole family is military. My mom, my dad, previous generations. I was raised to be the guy that you can say whatever the hell you want, as long as you're right.
Mm.
And if you say whatever the hell you want and you stick to your principles, God will never steer you wrong.
Case in point,
God will have your back.
Right?
You don't, yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. If God has your back and you decide to skip on your principles for even a moment, the retribution is swift.
Yeah.
So that.
I take that lane.
Keep that, because if you wind up starting to take that money and you wind up taking all that shit, you wind up here.
Hey, where's HW? I had HW in there before. Come on now.
I know, but the bed was entirely too crowded then, and I made that right.
I know it got a little dirty.
Those are some of the funniest South Park episodes, I gotta say.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that was from the movie, wasn't it? From the
movie.
Bigger, longer, and uncut, or whatever. It's
sure.
It's pretty funny.
I still gotta say one of my favorite episodes is the dance battle. I'm so nonconformist. I'm gonna non-conform to your nonconformity, and then the
human centipede is pretty good.
The frat house, the undercover frat house one, that was good.
Listen, when nothing beats the one when they joined a boy band, Finger Bang. that was the best.
Man, I can't choose one. One of my favorites is the one when Cartman gets fucking implanted by the aliens and they come out his ass. That is one of the funniest things in the world.
That and Team America is an underrated classic.
For sure.
I don't down one of the best movies that like make fun of America and like it's
right.
some bullshit how like we could make things cartoon depicting and like nobody
believe it or not
cartoons.
I wanted to try and get a hold of DJ Suede and have him write me a campaign, mix me a campaign song with Team America and This Is America.
Nice.
Okay, that'd be funny.
Because
So-
he, out of anyone that could do it, he's the guy that could do it.
You better make sure it's one part that's not in that campaign slogan. You know what I'm saying? This man is so American that he's willing to get down on his knees.
Right.
Yeah, but look, so
man.
what's funny about Team America is that when that movie came out, like it was like right after the like Iraq invasion and everything. It was not long after that stuff, and this is one of those dirty little secrets that I've admitted it before. I'll admit it again. That was when I was a neocon, and I was like down with the struggle. You know what?
Little Rumsfeld, baby Rumsfeld over there.
Bro, look, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, this is so dirty. I can't believe I even said this. This shit came out of my mouth. I'm not even gonna lie. I had a friend, and I was talking to him, and there was some Rumsfeld press conference was going on, and like somebody was pressing him on some of the shit about the WMDs, and like I told a friend of mine, I was like, man, it'd be really cool if he just told that reporter to shut the fuck up, and I was like, God damn, like I'll look back and I'm like, son of a bitch, man.
Right. Same.
Like how many lives were saved today because the motherfucker's not here anymore.
For sure.
But
it would have been cool if somebody told him.
I was mad at Team America. I was mad at Team America making fun of some of the stuff. Like when they did that whole like dicks, pussies, and assholes segment or whatever, I was like, that's right. Fuck these people. You gotta go over there, you gotta fuck shit up, you gotta blow shit up. And now I look at it and I'm like, God damn, man, like they were actually like striking at they were satirizing that idea that people have about how like somehow we're not the assholes, you know, like we're the dicks, you know. But if you think about it, it's all that flattering.
For yourself, Chad.
Well, I can't use that as a campaign slogan. That's the thing.
Hey, I'm not an asshole. I'm a dick.
But I mean,
go to car, baby.
Let's be honest. Let's be honest. They're going. Eventually, somebody is going to do opposition research and try to look up podcasts or whatever. Anyone that looks up this podcast, I want you to know I own everything that I said in this damn podcast. I don't give a shit what you think. I'm a real freaking dude, and I have real freaking opinions, and I have fun, and I drink beer when I'm on podcasts. Why? Because I'm fucking American, and you can pound sand.
That's right. And he was smoothly spinning his bottle opener while he was answering questions. That is the man that you need down in Washington to fight for you, goddammit. He was spinning that bottle opener like a Chinese star. He's a fan. And he roots for the Patriots, which is
how could you want to have a beer with anyone else when he has the class, like first class beer opener?
I'll be honest. I have a bottle of bourbon that I haven't opened yet, and I was going to pour a glass right before coming in here. But I literally got here with like 5 minutes to hop on.
Right.
So I was like,
I'm glad you weren't able to crack it open.
A couple of old fashions in me. So
I'm glad because you can't share any of it with us.
Yeah,
that's right.
You know what?
That's right.
Come up here on the 22nd.
Oh boy.
On the 22nd of July.
Am I allowed to come up there?
Down there for
so
you,
on the 22nd of July, I'm gonna have a big fundraiser at one of the nightclubs up here. And I'd love to have y'all up here to have a glass of bourbon, smoke a cigar, and maybe we can spill some freedom into some people.
So that's what they call it in strip clubs now, spilling freedom.
Oh no.
I'm kidding.
Oh no. I can't be going to strip clubs. Campaign. I need every single that people slip into my thong I can't be going to strip clubs.
Hey, I
just want
do want
everybody to
to.
remember that Julian just said he owns everything he said on this podcast.
Please delete that from the record. He didn't own that. That was all me. I keep forgetting that you're running for office, but I'm sorry that I'm just
it's all right.
level.
I'm the same dude I am in my podcast. I don't care if people.
I know I'm
people
thinking
have an issue with it.
podcast, and you're like really trying to do shit, and I'm just trying to make sophomoric jokes, and I'm very sorry.
So you know how the Ninja Turtles, were raised in a sewer. Josie's
I want to
comments
say
from the sewer, from the turtle sewer.
That's right, baby.
I gotta say the one thing I hated about politicians is none of them ever get to have any fun. They never get to tell the truth. They always have to be scripted and on par. You know what? When you get to have fun, have fun. When you get to be a real person, be a real person. I can tell you right now, if Joe Rogan has me in on a podcast, I'm not going to be all friggin' all tight-assed with a tux on trying to talk to Joe Rogan. I'm going to be chilling with him and having a drink.
Bill Clinton had a whole hell of a lot of fun when he was in politics. What are you talking about?
For
He
sure.
got a handy and everything.
I ain't going to be trying.
I don't think that was.
I ain't going to be trying to have that. kind of fun.
Listen,
Cigari.
I had to say handy because there might be young people watching this and they don't know what that is.
Yeah,
They know what the other thing is.
Do they know what a humidor is? Because that's what Monica Lewinsky was.
Right.
Yeah.
So I do want to start to wrap up. I want to thank, first of all, my brothers who have been here from practically the beginning, Chad and Nico, for joining us tonight. Did wind up making it. But I also want to give a big shout out to first Daryl. Man, I appreciate you coming in and sticking with me through this show. And I want to advise anyone that hasn't yet, that isn't a member of our Patreon, do join at the $5 level. I know that that's not that much money. And what it gets you is it gets you into the conversation behind the scenes. It is a lot of fun in there. Yeah,
right.
it gives you access to Daryl. So Daryl, I want to say thank you for joining me and dropping the gems that you did, brother.
Hey, not a problem at all, man. I'm just glad to be here, honestly. I dropped it earlier in the chat, that comment from, or not comment, but statement from Ben Franklin. If we don't hang together, we're surely going to hang separately.
For sure. And I also want that is definitely true. And I also want to thank the Podfather, my brother Jonesy, for joining us tonight, kind of at the spur of the moment. And just so I think I can speak for Chad and Nico, you're always welcome. Come on, jump in whenever you'd like. And
maybe not.
Wait. Don't you got a picture for him, Jonesy?
Yes, I do.
Uh-oh.
Fucking playing down, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Bro,
Wait, what is
put
that?
shit up there. You put that shit up there. I had said like a word, and you already put the fucking land the plane thing up here.
No, that was for Julian. That was not for you this time.
Oh, that was for Julian. Okay.
That was for Julian. We had to wrap Julian up that time.
It's like a rotten banana attached to a freaking dolphin.
Thank you, Julian.
Land the plane.
Somebody. Thank you, Julian. Somebody needs to slander this motherfucker for his slander. Thank you.
So
Marcus and Nico, does that not look like the sweetest ass plane that you've seen?
It's awesome, man. It's just awesome. I have one of those in my backyard.
It's as sweet as a rotten banana. It is as sweet as a rotten banana. I will.
So are all your takes on strip clubs. Thank you.
For sure.
I don't go to strip clubs, so it's.
She was a nice lady.
So,
right.
And I want to thank Julian. I really do hope that you have the most success that you can possibly have. Because again, how awesome would it be that somebody that actually pays attention to us is in Congress? That would be pretty cool. I'd be all right with that.
The world. That would be retarded. That would be so awesome. I would be worried that the world would be coming to an end because wait, is this Valhalla? or cis Armageddon. I don't know which one it is.
Right. So I want to thank you. And is there your Twitter's down below, as is your donation link? Is there anything else you'd like to plug tonight, Julian?
No, not really. I haven't even done any new episodes of my podcast. I'm going to get back into it, but I've been researching for this. I've been researching for that book. I'm gonna rip DC apart. All the talking points on both sides of the aisle, they're all bullshit.
Sure.
And I'm gonna use actual history and stats to do it.
We like
Nice.
that. We like that a lot.
Well, if you were in Indiana, I'd be voting for your ass. So you can, and I don't get out to vote for everybody. So just being clear.
Actually, like, go to a ballot box.
A pause-worthy
Just, like,
statement
vote
every
for one
show.
person.
Right. Oh, I've had
What's
plenty.
that, Nico?
Can we go to a ballot box and just like vote for like one person and then just like go mind the rest of our business?
Yeah.
Nico.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't
Yeah.
vote. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not decapitated by a lot of black people, but like, I'm not. No, I take that back. I just, we talked about this. I don't mean to go down a bunny hole, but like Jonesy said it. I think we all agree. Both talking points on both sides are full of bullshit, and I believe that having a real person in there, giving out, real common sense and advice to regular Joe Smo Americans, I think it's gonna start clicking on. But it's all about, what is it? Your media. What the fuck is the advertisement? Like you said, it's proper advertisement. You being on this show properly advertises you, minus certain segments. But
Well, hey,
you're still
show this
doing
to
that
liberal
proper
Canadians,
message,
at
boss
least.
man. You spitting it and you spitting the truth, and we appreciate that. And we appreciate your strides. That's it. That's all, boss.
Oh, thank you, man. It's all about just, if we speak truth and we have real conversations and we actually be real people, real individuals in front of people. I'm not here to pretend.
Mm-hmm.
Pretenders
That's what I love
do
about
not
you.
apply.
Yeah, that's what I love about you. You're fucking like real. Even like every time I've talked to you, even like the time like when you called me up and you're like, "Hey, I want to talk to you about this," and then when you had me on your show to talk with your friend who's like a former police officer and everything, like we talk about, you never held back. You said what you wanted to say. You didn't try to like couch it in any kind of like PC kind of bullshit, even to try to make me feel more comfortable. You just said what you needed to say, and I felt more comfortable with that because I knew that, like, okay, he's not tap dancing. I'm not tap dancing. We're just going to go right at it. And we're going to hit this head on. But we were doing it in like a genuine desire to understand each other better. And that's all you can ask from a dialogue.
I legitimately believe the majority of the damn country is honestly right here on 80% of shit.
Mm-hmm.
And we argue about 10% of shit where it's literally just language that separates us. And then there's like 10% of it that we are never ever going to agree on. And that's the far fringes that DC manages to keep us all arguing about.
Well, think about the bullshit around all this like CRT stuff, everything. You got people like in these two different echo chambers yelling at each other about some stuff where neither one of them has even read the shit to see what it's really even about, and they're going to argue about whether it's good or bad. And the people who are
I'll do an episode on that.
Yeah, the people who've read it, who are defending it, haven't read it.
Yeah.
The people who are excoriating it haven't read it either. But they're both arguing with each other like it's the most important thing. Meanwhile, there's fucking people unemployed that can't pay their bills, and they're going to get kicked out when the moratoriums get lifted. They're going to get kicked out of their apartment or their house. Like there's some real shit going on, and people aren't talking about the real shit, and they're talking about all this other shit that's like manufactured in the media.
Can I say
You
something?
know what?
That
I'm actually going to do an episode. I'm going to do an episode on that, and I'd like to have y'all on because I just finished reading it, and I'm actually kind of pissed off at both sides for this because we could have had a legit, rational fucking discussion about this shit, and because the left combined the original text of critical race theory with white fragility in the 1619 Project, and that's what people are complaining about, is what we're seeing our kids come home with is that combination. And that is very much anti-white and tear people down to build other people up. And then you look at, and they're not even teaching critical race theory properly.
Right.
So when the left says we're not even teaching critical race theory, you know what? They're right, because it's been bastardized.
Right.
So they're using the fact that it's been bastardized as a defense, whereas we could have sat here and been like, no, you bastardized it, and you're calling it this, but it's not that, and you're all a bunch of freaking liars, and you're trying to destroy the damn country, and there are some legit serious issues with CRT.
Mm-hmm.
There's some legit serious fucking problems with CRT, but we're all at each other's throats, and neither side is having a legitimate fucking argument, because all they care about is scoring points on each other, and I'm already fucking done with it. Honestly, I'm probably going to, this is why I'm like, you know what? Just, I don't want my kid learning CRT. It's bullshit. My kid can learn all the fucking U.S. history in the goddamn planet. And at freaking 12 years old, he can debunk CRT in his fucking sleep. And CRT is a legal theory, so it's not even being taught in school, because you don't learn law in school.
Cool.
So it literally is critical pedagogy along with white fragility and 1619 project, and that's what the kids are really learning. I think New Hampshire's bill regarding this was honestly the best that I've seen so far.
I don't know anything about that. I'm gonna have to look into it.
It's the libertarians in the state that wrote it. I'll send you guys a copy of it.
Okay, yeah, please do. Daryl, what were you trying to say earlier?
I was just trying to say that basically, yeah, CRT is it's a problem, but I don't want us to be falling for the kitchen sink is broken, and but we really should be worried about the foundation of the house. There's bigger problems that are on, and then this whole conversation control.
Something's breaking up.
Yeah, what is that?
An alien.
Shaving ice.
Hartman's aliens are trying to eat Daryl.
He's got some shaved ice in the background.
Yeah, I don't know what, there was something clouding what you were saying, Daryl.
Nico, nobody's making ices, man.
In Chicago? What you talking about, G?
That's on my end. I was messing with something.
Okay.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Daryl.
Yeah, I was just trying to say that the whole CRT thing is it's a distraction. It's the bread and circus. We're falling for things that are minuscule when we have really the foundation of the house falling out, and we're complaining about the kitchen sink being broken.
Right.
In reality, you got to be more concerned with the fact that they're medically bending people over backwards. We've got the ATF now trying to change the definition of what's a pistol, what's a rifle. They're disarming the population now, because for many reasons, but obviously there's a rise in the percentage of black people who are buying guns, and we're now the largest gun buying demographic. But now it's time to really crack down on disarming the American people. Don't fall for the talking points. Turn off the fucking TV and wake up.
And listen to what Joe Biden is saying.
By the way, thank you, Maj Tour, for making the black community the largest gun buying demographic in the country.
Word. But Joe Biden just said last week, he goes, everybody wants to bring up the Second Amendment. Everybody wants to talk about the Second Amendment. Second Amendment wasn't for everybody, folks. It originally wasn't for everybody. So who the fuck are these people he's talking about that it wasn't for?
Said it was very specific about there were certain people who could not own weapons.
Yeah, there were certain people who cannot own weapons. And my face doesn't really move when I talk because I'm an avatar. And I have Alzheimer's.
You know what? Bet your ass that's about to be my next ad right there. Bet your ass. All gun control is racist. And Joe Biden just fucking proved it.
Facts.
For sure.
I don't want to bet my ass. I like my ass. I swear.
There's not a dude that You know what? I was going to say something. I probably should.
Well, whoa, don't you listen? You are running for office, brother. Listen, don't go full Jonesy here. I'm not running for anything.
Definitely don't go full Marcus.
That's right. And if you don't want to go full Marcus,
I'm going to be honest.
just text me and I'll say it for you.
Be a point. There's probably going to be a point where somebody's going to push me too far.
Marcus is so bad,
and it's
Marcus,
solely because somebody called me a white supremacist the other day. I thought it was hilarious.
They called you a beige supremacist.
She saw the 17. So she saw the hat and she goes, "Is that a response to the 1619 project?" I was like, "No, it's actually a veterans organization." But okay, whatever. And she's like, "Well, what does it do?" I was like, "We kind of get together to stop each other from committing suicide, kind of a big deal."
Group, yeah.
And she was like, "It sounds like a white supremacist organization." I was like, "Why? You and your buddies want to join? You want to get dressed up in sheets all over again and go running around town, burning shit down, putting crosses in people's yards?"
You did not say that.
Yeah. I said out loud.
Ladies and gentlemen, he did not mean that.
Even like
shit right there.
Even her little Democrat buddies were like, "Shit. Oh no."
Ladies and gentlemen, we love Julian, and he did not mean that, and he actually wants to win.
I'm like, no. If the left, if you really want to start talking shit, and y'all want to get into a shit talking match, I'm your man, because I'll talk shit with you all day. I'll clap back against you, the left, all damn day. You want to start acting stupid? Let's play stupid games.
For sure.
Don't be
I'm good at politics.
Don't be the Ja Rule of
politics.
I'm good at it. So we gonna clap back. Don't do that.
So, Julian, it's been excellent having you on, and at some point, you'll have to keep us updated on how things are going as the primary heats up and those kinds of things. I definitely, if anyone who's watching this is in New Hampshire, check him out. Again, his links are down below, and I want to advise everyone, unless Chad wants to advise everybody. Chad, you want to advise everybody?
Want to make sure everybody remembers to like, to share, to subscribe, 2 shares to speed the spread of this podcast. Join our Patreon at the $5 level. You get to join our Telegram chat where all the anarchs get together, and we offer all kinds of, like, Dale's dropping like deals on like new implements of self-protection. I'll say that, and the stuff that goes in said implements. But no, we also have like our Teespring store where we got tons of merchandise, and we're actually we were talking about this last week. Yeah, there's the ogre shit shirt. Shout out to Nico for coming up with the ogre shit slogan for what government is.
I got another one for a shirt.
That's what I was about to say. Like Nico,
look, hold on, wait, I got you guys, and it's specific for this episode.
We are
not the assholes. We are the dicks.
That's it. I want that shirt.
I'm not gonna put that on the shirt.
No. Is there a big pause button on the back? I don't think there's a pause button big enough. Not do that.
I will wear that shirt like Superman.
Go to our
I'll be up there like.
Go to our Teespring store. Sorry, had too many old fashions at dinner. Go to our Teespring store and do that specifically because we do not have the shirt that Nico just described.
Well, we got ogre shit, right?
We will never have that shirt. We have the ogre shit shirt. We will not have the other one.
I am going to be the living embodiment of a dick. I'm going to be like this, looking all aggressive.
We have like Jonah Hill's notebook from Superbad on this shirt or something.
Just put me in a shirt like this.
We got a lot of merchandise already there that Marcus designed, and there's one shirt, the I Vetoed shirt, that Marcus and I designed together. The rest of them are mostly Marcus, or almost all Marcus, if not all Marcus. But we're about to
ideas from people like Daryl.
New merch, yeah. So anyway, Oh yeah, that's right. Daryl. Yeah, Daryl. Shout out to Daryl for the "Make America Rebel Again" idea. That was a great idea for that shirt. And we have the "Make Anarchy Great Again," which was inspired by Hotep Jesus. But tons of merchandise there. Go to the Teespring store. All the links are in the description below. And this has been a great conversation. I can't wait to go back and watch the first hour and a half that I missed because I was at dinner. But Julian, man, like I'm so glad that I got to actually come in and share some time with you because it's been a while since we actually got to talk, but this was great. And I've fully, everybody who I have any connection with in New Hampshire, I'm going to get them activated to go out and help you win your race. We got tons of friends in the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, and there's been actually quite a kerfuffle about the fact that they have said if there's a candidate like you and they don't really have a viable libertarian who could run against you, that they would actually be more willing to like support your campaign because you're a legitimate liberty-based Republican running in a race than to try to run against you just for the sake of running against you. So I'm going to see what I can do to try to help make that happen because I think you're one of the good ones. You're one of the legit ones, and we need to promote that. So we really appreciate you coming on.
I am going to share this whole podcast with the New Hampshire Mises Caucus and Libertarian Party and the Free State Project because regardless of whether I win or not, I want everybody to be watching this. I want everyone to watch you guys' podcast.
Appreciate
it. Hopefully y'all will have 10,000 subscribers by the end of the day.
That'd be great. We appreciate that, brother.
No less is acceptable. Thank you very much.
and don't if you have any like intellectual bone in your body, bone or brain or anything, don't watch the Waste of Talent podcast. You will not get it. Don't watch that. It's terrible.
No. But go to Apple Podcasts and listen to the Waste of Talent podcast at the very least.
Hey, anytime, Jonesy, you I'll come on your show. Hey, you guys, I just sent you guys my number in the chat. Shoot me out a phone call anytime.
All right, brother.
Okay. Yeah, no doubt.
And hopefully, maybe y'all can be up here on the 22nd. We can have a drink.
Hey, I already got.
I would love to.
Working on it.
I would love to. I doubt I'll be able to make it. Something that you should be aware of that's coming your way. You can get in touch with Magnus. This might be something you'd be interested in. He's doing an anti-war march that Adam's already agreed to get involved in DC coming up this fall. And I don't remember the dates, but that might be something you're interested in as well.
If it doesn't conflict with the Solutionary Summit, I'm down.
Cool. I'll try to get that information to you as well.
Solutionary Summit's Labor Day weekend, isn't it? Like
I think first weekend of September, and then Hotep Jesus. When is his event?
That's August 26th to 28th, I think.
Yeah. All right.
I will be in the place to be.
I wish.
I'll be at both.
Too broke, but it's all right.
I'm buying a house. I'm not going to be able to go.
Shit. Shit.
Anyway,
Vegas is about
secure the homestead.
Vegas is about the cheapest friggin' destination to go to.
Yeah, me and Chad are going to share a room.
Right on.
No, not at all.
I don't want to know.
Oh, listen. I thought we've already established.
Hell, fuck no.
Listen,
just gonna show the little boxing moves and show them the head movement. You know?
Yeah, listen. I'm just gonna show up. I'm gonna come in the room real quick. I'm gonna piss all over the toilet seat. I'm gonna leave. That's what I do.
Bro, my dad used to travel. Like, same thing that I'm doing. But like one time, it was like real late at night. They got in from the plant, and he threw his duffel bag in from the room. Like just threw it in. Thing lands on the bed. The bed goes, oh. Like that. They had given him the key to somebody's room that already had the room. And shit.
Oh man!
And there's this woman sitting on the bed reading a book, and she was like, ah! And I was like, I just like closed the door real quick and went back to the front desk. I was like, and the girl's laughing at the front desk when I get there. I'm like, the woman in the room you just gave me the key to, she's not laughing. So you need to rectify this shit real quick. Because like, as far as she's concerned, I just tried to fucking attack her. and all I did was like open the door with my key and like push the doorknob. And as soon as I saw her, I was like, close the door real quick. Anyway, it's I don't want you anywhere near my room, Jonesy.
Damn it! I want to play a practical joke on you, but it's gonna happen. Damn it!
No.
And I'm recording it, and it's gonna be on the Jean-Core social media platform. Damn it! Chad gets pranked.
Right
You
on.
know what? Maybe that's what I'll do in Congress. I'll start playing practical jokes on congressmen.
They play enough on us.
I'm saran wrapping
and
Chad's
then
toilet.
That's beautiful because then you'll catch people are going to start memeing the shit, and then boom.
No,
You
shit,
imagine
like,
that? You catch like Mitt Romney, like.
Hey, for real, go check out.
I hope there are not too many with heart conditions.
No, but like I'm not sure if you're familiar with Vermin Supreme, but if you are or aren't, either way, go check out his stuff. Like he's a classic. Like he finds these ways. Now he's not necessarily doing. He's not fucking Johnny Knoxville or some shit where he's like pulling pranks on people, that way. But he's definitely doing that sort of performance art.
I think he was up at Pork Fest this weekend, but I missed him.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we've got to wrap this up. I've got to get going. So
Fine, pussy.
this has been. I know.
I gotta go eat pimping. My bedtime is right now, so
Hey,
it's
look.
like,
Yeah,
You
I
just-
gotta be up at 3 a.m. So I gotta scat
it's
too.
3 a.m.
y'all.
brothers. You
Right
feel
on.
me?
Peace.
Let's suffer.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you everybody who's joined us, and thanks to everybody in the chat that stayed this long, and thank you to anyone who's watched for this long. And all I gotta say, are you gonna hit the
Got it.
outro?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm
Okay.
ready.
Stay free, my friends.
Peace.